Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Mo Nawara in the Midwest. We are almost ready for Nate Weitzer to come back and join us from his little sabbatical there during this summertime. So he will be back with us this week, and we are bringing you the full slate that we have. A pretty small slate here tonight, Mo, on Monday. Not much to choose from, not much that we love, but we are going to bring you a couple games that you can at least find probably a few angles to bet in here. So make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we are bringing you these videos each and every weekday of this regular season. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Got great written content on there for you all summer long, leading into this fall as well. Also have our great odds checker tool on there, so you can make sure you are shopping those lines to the best of your ability, getting all that juice back you can on those MLB bets tonight. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or a DraftKings account, head to FDPicks.com or DKPicks.com. Find those listings in your area. This is where I would normally toss to Nate. Can't wait to get him back reading these lines, but I will kick things off as we have all evening and nighttime games here. The Blue Jays are in Baltimore taking on Jordan Lyles in Baltimore, minus 135 for the Jays there with Kikuchi on the mound. Justin Dunn and the Reds are in New York taking on the Mets, and Chris Bassett minus 315, huge favorites for the Mets after some big wins over the weekend with all their studs back in the lineup. We've got the Nats and Anibal Sanchez in Chicago taking on Keegan Thompson, minus 190 for the Cubs at home. Alex Wood and the Giants continue to struggle due to the Giants on the road in San Diego taking on Blake Snell, minus 190 for Snell and the Pods at home. The Pirates are in Arizona taking on the Diamondbacks. We are going to talk about that game. We've got Zach Gallen on the mound at home. Also have Tyler Beede for the Pirates. Some pretty big numbers there that you can get back on that juice for the Pirates there. The Angels and Jose Suarez are in Oakland taking on Cole Irvin and the A's, minus 125 for the A's at home. I don't think we're going to be watching that game. Not going to be too much fun. But finishing things off here, we've got the Yanks and Jamison Tyone in Seattle taking on Logan Gilbert, minus 105 for the M's at home, minus 115. It's pretty small juice there for the Yankees on the road. We are going to talk about that game. Let's kick things off, though, with the Pirates and the Diamondbacks. As we mentioned, Zach Gallen on the mound, taking on Tyler Beede. A big number here for the Pirates if you want to lay some juice there. So what are you looking at for Tyler Beede and the Pirates to be able to get you that big return on your money tonight?
Yeah, I'm going with the big underdog here. Been a lot of favorites for me recently, but here I'm going with the big underdog. I feel like Zach Gallen is being priced like his 3.31 ERA is real. I don't think it's real. StatCast doesn't think it's real. They have him with a 3.72 ERA. Looking through his peripherals, basically everything is in line with his previous season, so I'm just not seeing like any sort of tangible improvement that's going to lead to him being a true talent 3.3 ERA pitcher. His pitch mix is the same. His estimators are slightly better, but not by very much. And actually his called strike plus whiff rate is actually dropped 26.4. That's a career low. And that's actually a little worse than average. So I think he's still just a solid, slightly above average pitcher, but those types of pitchers to me are going to have a tough time being minus 230 or whatever the Diamondbacks are at, facing a bullpen game from a major league team, basically. Now Tyler Beede is very bad, but he is part of the Pirates bullpen, and the Pirates bullpen is not good for sure. It's like bottom 5 pretty much across the board, but bottom 5 bullpen is still around like a 4.4 ERA. It looks like to me when I'm looking at the estimators and the peripherals, and that's plenty good enough to be competitive against about a 3.7 ERA true talent pitcher here. Especially when you look at these offenses. I know that the Diamondbacks are a bit better than the Pirates, but neither one is good, and they're both pretty low in the WRC plus and in the rankings. Diamondbacks 92 WRC plus, Pirates 84. So I mean they're a little better, but it's not by a ton. So this just looks like a competitive baseball game to me. I mean, I had the Diamondbacks pretty big favorites, but it was like more like minus 180 than minus 230. So I just don't think, because the bullpens are so good nowadays, I just don't think when you're facing a bullpen game without an elite starter and no other real edges to speak of, that you can get to this big of a favorite, basically. So I did take some Pirates plus 210, think it's more like plus 200 now. I still think that's good for a play. Don't go too crazy because you're going to get mad if the Pirates go down 6-0 in the third inning. But they've came through a lot as underdogs, big underdogs this year.
Yeah, and I think it's a good moment to go. We're looking at the numbers here. We're not looking at the names on paper. We do see a bit of an overvalue situation here with Zach Gallen, and you see a bit of an undervalue in the fact that, like you said, there's almost a cap to how bad you can be as a bullpen at this point. And those numbers, if they extend throughout the 9 innings, they can work, right? If Beatty goes 3 innings, that's still really on pace with what they're looking for to continue to just sort of throw those bullpen arms out there. But let's go to another game here that's actually a pretty good matchup. We've got the Yankees in Seattle taking on the Mariners. Taillon versus Gilbert there. And I think it's one of those situations where I could honestly see this a little bit more as a coin flip than it is, in which case you might consider that the Mariners at minus 105. But I do see a few things that I like in terms of, the Yankees and the way that they're hitting right-handed pitching. That's a huge obstacle here for the Mariners. They're basically third highest in on base, third highest in ISO, WRC plus, basically in the top 5 for all those key categories against right-handed pitching. Whereas, the Mariners, they're just not quite the same against, Taillon and team. But it's just really, that's where the edge lies for me. What are you looking at here to feel good about taking the Yanks about minus 115 or so?
Well, I can't say I'm thrilled to take the Yanks, but yeah, I feel like every time I bet the Yanks, their offense takes a dump. But it got down to minus 105 this morning. I'm still seeing a minus 105 on the board. Looks like the market came in pretty heavy on Seattle in the overnights. I thought the line was fair yesterday, fair-ish at least, and with the money coming in on Seattle, that's moved the price down on the Yankees. I think minus 105 is definitely playable. I would even consider minus 110. When you look at these pitchers, I think they're basically dead even. I don't see much difference between Logan Gilbert and Jamison Taillon whatsoever. But then it's like you said, it just comes down to the offenses. I mean, the Yankees have the best offense in baseball this season, and the Mariners, while they have a good offense, do not have the best offense in baseball. So I don't think it's right for the Mariners to be even money or even favored here on some sites. I know that Stanton and Rizzo are out for the Yankees, but those are somewhat easily replaceable DH/corner bat types. The Mariners are missing Julio Rodriguez, who I think is much more difficult to replace. And that's basically what it comes down to here for me. I'm still looking at a lineup that has Adam Frazier and Jared Kelenic bookending each end of it. That's not very good. And when you look at the pitch types, that's also pointing to the Yankees because Logan Gilbert is so fastball slider heavy, 80% fastball slider. Yankees are at the very top, best in the league against the slider, and they're second versus the four-seamer. I don't like fading the Mariners because it always feels like if you're down going into, it's like old KC in like 2014-15. Feels like if you're down going into the late innings, you just have no chance because of their bullpen. But I do think when I just look at this matchup, the Yankees do look a little underpriced, and we'll see where I'm thinking they're going to be some buyback at some point. So I would say just look out for minus 110s and minus 105s. I wouldn't play it past that. It's not a big edge for sure.
No, it's not. But it's like you said, if you're going to be replacing guys like Rizzo and Stanton with Benintendi and Donaldson, you're not losing too much there from some of those corner spots, infield and outfield, with the slugging. Benintendi still batting over 300 on the season. Nice on base for him as well. So look, got two guys slugging 400 coming in as your bench. Is going to work really well, especially as we said against that right-handed pitching and getting some nice lefty bats in there. So I do think there's at least a bit of enough of an edge for the Yanks on offense. And as you said, it's pretty much a pick 'em there between those two hurlers on the mound. So that is all the time we have for you on a pretty small slate here to kick off the week. But we will be back with you guys tomorrow. So make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. As promised, we will have Nate Weitzer back in tow with us for the show to complete us and keep us going through the rest of this regular season. So until we see you next, happy betting.